welcome gallery staff and councillors to Council's February ordinary meeting. I'll open the meeting with acknowledgement of country. Richmond Valley Council recognises the people of the Bundjalung Nations as custodians and traditional owners of this land, and we value and appreciate the continual culture connection to lands, their living culture and their unique role in the life of this region in the past, present and future. Item 2 of the agenda is the prayer, and I'll ask the General Manager to please lead it.
Dear Lord, we meet to serve our Richmond Valley community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, and to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognise our responsibility to the past and the future, and the rights and needs of both individuals and community. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and on our efforts here today. May we act wisely and well. Amen.
Amen. Item 3, public access. I don't believe there's any request of public access, Mr General Manager.
No, none received, Mr Mayor.
Apologies. We have one apology from Councillor Morrissey. Could I get a mover of that, please?
Yep, move.
Councillor Hayes and a seconder, Councillor McGillen. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 5, mayoral minute. There's no mayoral minute. Confirmation of the minutes on page 6. Could I get a mover, please?
Moved.
Councillor Humphries, seconder, Councillor McGillen. Is everyone okay with the accuracy of those minutes? I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. Matters arising out of the minutes. Has any councillor got any? Councillor Hayes?
Yeah, just a question on the letter we received from Mr Scully, Paul Scully, MP, back in December. In the bottom of that letter he says that if we have any concerns about the Woodburn Village and the impacts of the Resilient Homes program on Woodburn, to contact Janelle Saffin's office. I'm just wondering if Council's had a lot of contact with Janelle over that past couple of months and what's been happening.
Mr General Manager, do you want to answer that?
I'm happy to answer that if you want. Yep. We actually had contact with Janelle earlier this afternoon with the Minister for Local Government in town in Ballina. Given it was a Minister for Local Government, it did tend to focus on broader local government issues. But we do have contact regularly with Janelle and our office. Started last week. She hosted a community leaders online forum, which the Mayor and I attended. The other thing that is happening, which I will mention this evening, is that there'll be an opportunity next week to meet with the Deputy CEO of the Reconstruction Authority, Simone Walker, and the Deputy Secretary for RA, Amanda Leck, are coming to the Richmond Valley. They'll be meeting with our executive team, and also there'll be an opportunity for an hour session with councillors. So our aim is for that to occur on next Thursday afternoon. So I'd definitely encourage yourself, Councillor Hayes, but obviously any councillors who have specific issues that you want to raise with RA. They're the leaders, they're the decision makers, obviously with Janelle and ministers above them, but it's a good opportunity to give them your perspective on the ground. So hopefully you can make that discussion. But we're on regular meetings around recovery, and I also have a meeting which is next week with a specific landowner in Woodburn that I've been asked to be part of with the RA team around economic development. So there's quite a bit happening. Obviously, everyone wants things to happen quicker, especially in the context of our mid-Richmond towns, Corrockeye, Woodburn and Broadwater. So yeah, look, there's things happening. We continue to advocate and get on with things that we have control of. So I don't know whether there's any other specific queries you had on that.
That wasn't the answer I was expecting, but that's good news that there's something going on. But I've had experience where I contacted her office and she took the time to ring me prior to Christmas and gave me information about where to direct some of the community members down there with emails and stuff. And look, I know of at least 4 that have gone off to the office. They haven't been replied to. Up until today, they hadn't been replied to. But they CC'd in Williamson and Kevin Hogan, and they both replied, but Janelle hasn't. So I just thought that didn't look real good. But after that, looks like she's been busy.
Another thing that's happening is next Monday there's a meeting of the Corrokai Advisory Group. So we've got advisory groups in our towns, as you know, that the Resilient Homes Program representatives will be attending that meeting, and then on next Tuesday there's one in Woodburn, and they will be attending that as well. So we've, I suppose specifically as a result of the concerns that were raised, late last year, they made the commitment to attend our next advisory group meeting, so they're now fulfilling that commitment. So our team will have representatives at those meetings, and it'll be opportunity for those people on those advisory groups to ask questions, give advice, give their perspective. So I'd certainly encourage the members of those groups to attend those meetings.
That's why I asked the General Manager to answer that, because I knew he spoke to me this morning about that meeting next Thursday, and I knew he was going to say something tonight, so that was your prime opportunity. So I'd encourage other councillors, if they want to attend, please come along. Any other matters arising? Declarations of interest. Has any councillor got a declaration of interest? Mr General Manager, you've received any?
No, none received.
Petitions, no petitions. Notice of motion, no notice of motion. I'm going to move over to page 8, Mayor's report. I'll move that report on page 8. Can I get a seconder, please?
Second.
Councillor Humphries. Any business arising out of that? Questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple. One question, you can cover it with one answer, I reckon. In February, you attended the cattle sale at the NRLX on the 2nd and again on the 7th. I'm just wondering what the feel is out there amongst the vendors and the agents and the new managers, and how it's operating, and what's been going on.
On the 2nd was the first sale back, and the General Manager and myself received an invitation to go that. It was a store sale on the Friday. One agent run that, and they had big numbers, which was good. And then I went back out on the Wednesday myself, because it was the usual sale day and all agents were selling there, so I just thought it was only fair that I go and have a look at that. And there was, once again, there was good numbers. The feel was, I think, like myself and councillor, were just relieved and happy that the sale yards is operating again, and the support there from the vendors is great. I see no issues, and I was accepted. I talked to a fair few people, and I was there for about 3/4 of an hour to an hour that morning. I had to go and do some other stuff, but it's a 7:30 start, and yeah, I'm very pleased and happy that it's going again. Yeah. Any other? Right, I'll put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. Delegates' reports. I believe there's a delegates' report from Rouse County Council. Can I get a mover, please?
Move the report.
Councillor Humphries, and I'll second that. Any business arising out of that? Put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. Now go over to page 14. Matters determined without debate. Has any councillor got any item?
I'll call
Councillor Hayes.
14.3
Yeah.
and 16.2.
16.2. Any other councillors? I'll call 14.1, 14.2, 15.1, 15.2, and 17.1. Which one? Which one's that? Yeah, and 16.1. I missed one that I wanted to. So I believe that leaves us 15.3, 16.3, 17.2 and 17.3. Is that correct?
Yep.
Could I get a motion for those, please?
Move that way.
Second. Move Councillor Humphries and second to Councillor Cornish. Put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. (14.1). I'll move that motion. Get a seconder, please.
Yeah, second.
Council, this item supporting the next stage of the Richmond Valley's growth, I believe is a very promising and positive outlook for our future, the Valley's future. And it's for the whole Valley, and I'm pleased to see with the rail trail being open that we're also now looking to expand down into the Lower River, try to hook the three villages together. The cycleways across Australia, the more I read about them, the more successful they are, and they bring a lot of tourism and that to our area. But I might just get the General Manager to speak to the report. It's his report, if that's okay.
Yeah, thanks. This obviously good news that the Regional Job Precinct Master Plan is now out for public exhibition, and the opportunity for community members to have a say on what is proposed in the draft master plan, and also the substantial technical reports and other detail that has gone into this project. It's been a couple of years in the making. It flows on from the report that was put to the December meeting, which set out some of the key directions for 2024. So it is pleasing that we've started this year on a really positive note, getting this package out for consultation. So really would encourage people to attend the sessions that are being held this week. Tomorrow we've got a community session at the Casino Community Centre from 2 to 4 p.m. Thursday, another session from 4 until 6 p.m. And then on Friday, there is a session from 10:30 a.m. until midday at the Evans Head Library. So whilst the Regional Job Precinct is certainly focused on casino, it is about the growth of the whole Richmond Valley, but we also do know that people in our mid-Richmond area come and work in and around casino and are certainly impacted by what is happening there. So really pleasing for us to have that package out. Look, the report also just talks about the flow-on effects of not only the industrial growth, but then the potential that can bring residential growth, and we continue to work with the proponents for any of the residential land developments. You would have seen the New South Wales Government announcement around the Resilient Lands program for the release of a subdivision of 400 lots in Lismore on land at the Southern Cross University land, a deal that's been done with government for that to be activated. We're continuing to be in discussions around what other developments will be supported by that program, and it does rely on the proponents of the land having expressed interest, of which the proponents for the Fairy Hill residential development, which has the potential to activate over 1,500 lots. It's in that program, and we are certainly advocating hard for support through infrastructure support funding to, I suppose, enable that land to be developed in the short term would be nice, because we all know that across the Northern Rivers we do have a housing shortfall, and getting these developments happening is a positive thing. It also has the positive effect on a region of with population growth. Increases the scale of your community. It can increase then the government services that are available, and other services that the community can tap into, as well as a lot of the feedback we often get is that people want some of the larger retailers in town. That will happen if the population and the demand is there. So both by population growth, but also by people choosing to buy local and spend local, your retail economy will grow. And the other mention there is around, obviously, if those industrial and residential growth is going to happen, we need critical infrastructure to support it. So there is a report later in the agenda around our need for a new sewage treatment plant for Casino, and we're moving ahead quickly with works on that. So yeah, plenty happening, obviously in and around Casino, but also focused on our other areas. Good to see the projects starting on what we know as the dip at Dairy Flat, getting that work underway to improve the resilience of the Woodburn-Corrocoy Road.
Yeah, it's. I just want to speak on that. It's not only the dip; it's also the Tatham Bridges and Willicks Bridge, and that'll. It won't stop that road from being flooded, but it will give quicker access after the floods come. So that'll and come and gone. So that's because, as we know, old Oakland Road down there gets a real flogging when the floods won't recede enough on this road. So MR 145 should be open a lot earlier for those community down there. Also on the water security, council's looking at that, and so as well as Rouse are also looking at their water security projects over there. So we need that infrastructure into the future. But yeah, it's the economic side of the Richmond Valley is going to have a big improvement in coming years, and it might take 5 to 10 years, but it will all come together. But that's the idea of having a master plans and strategies to work towards, and I think they're starting to pay off. Any other speakers? I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. I'll move 14.2. Can I get a seconder, please?
Second.
Councillor Hayes. Councillor, I'm very pleased and rather proud of this report. I think it's a great outcome for our community, and I'd just like to read a few of the dot points, a highlight from July to December 2023 and some of these projects and where we're going. Significant progress is on delivering Casino's rebuilding the Richmond Valley flood recovery program. We hear about those every meeting. Officially opening of the $6.5 million swimming pool in Casino. Commencement of the Norton's Gap Road restoration following the lands slips in 2021 and 22, and I believe we're hoping for a November completion or by the end of the year. Commencement of pre-construction and planning of the Casino's new $60 million sewage treatment plant, and the General Manager just spoke about that for our future. Major progress on the showground upgrade. If anyone goes past there, it looks awesome. It's fantastic. And that'll be completed by mid-year. Completion of the long-awaited upgrade, Corrocoy Island Ground Road under the Fixing Local Roads program. That road was one of our worst roads in our council area, and the community look forward to that being completed. That goes from Ellengown Road to Emu Park Road, I believe. Commencement of the Mid-Richmond Place plans, project to revitalise Corrocoy, Broadwater, Riley's Hill, Woodburn and Evans Head and support greater flood resilience for the future. That's actually happening, as we said. Successfully delivery of the biggest truck show in the Southern Hemisphere, with this year's event attracting more than 600 entrants. And if if it keeps growing, I don't know how we're going to keep fitting them in, but they seem to be putting in there somehow, which is great, and it attracts a real lot of tourism. Securing funding to replace the ageing Tatham bridges, I mentioned that earlier. The Namuna landfill cell, when's it, and that'll supply storage for 10 to 12 years. When's it look like being operational?
Around April, we will be in a position to start filling the cell.
And the old cell 5, or the one that we're using now, is it just right up to its use-by date? Will it have to be capped straight away?
Yeah, there's a capping project to be done on it. So once you've finished filling a cell, you then have more expenditure around capping it properly so that you minimise the legacy for the future.
And it's nearly full right now?
It's had minimal waste going into it for some time. We continue to transport the bulk of our residual waste to Queensland.
And the rail trail, which will be opened in coming months?
Yes, we've got that planned for around the 23rd of March. And the other one you mentioned is the showground. The aim is to have an opening event at the showground in mid-April.
So if we go over to page 22 of our agenda, you'll see the progress activities, and out of the delivery program, 78 of the 80 principal activities are running on schedule. I think that's a very, very good outcome. And the 2 principal activities that are currently running behind schedule, they have accompanying notes between them, which is the bit below them, which is the activate the Richmond Valley Regional Jobs Precinct and establish an NRLX as the premier livestock exchange in northern New South Wales. And they will be happening in the near future. So I believe that the NRLX won't take long to get back onto the region's top selling centre with the numbers that are starting to go through there. So is there anyone else want to make a few words? Say a few words?
Yeah, I think
Councillor Hay.
after the Mayor's review and the positive side of that, I'd like to just reiterate about the Lower River area. Now, this delivery program, if someone come up to me tomorrow and said, what's in it for anything east of Woodburn, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. There's nothing budgeted, there's nothing planned for other than the place plans that are taking place. And what's going to come out of them, who knows? I'm of the opinion that Woodburn's not going to, achieve much with a place plan at this point in time. I think the flood recovery stuff we should be doing more. I know you're going to argue that there's no land available down there for housing and so on and so on. We've been through all those discussions. But if someone come up to me and grabbed this document and said, okay, what's in this for the Lower River? You can't pull anything out of it. There's absolutely nothing. We got, I think when you go through there, there's probably $150 million worth of work. We got some money there for the clubhouse for the tennis club and the pony club. We got a little bit of money allocated for car park at Woodburn. Nothing else that I'm aware of. So I'm not disappointed. I'm happy that casinos poking along. It's going great guns, but we're getting left behind. We're getting forgotten, and it's all because of the flood. And I know we're not in control of what happens because of the floods, but if we don't keep pushing this Reconstruction Commission and the government, Woodburn's just going to disappear into thin air. They haven't. I'm not sure. Did they do any research on available land down there for future housing? Was Reedens Lane looked at in depth? And if it wasn't, why wasn't it?
Well, it's certainly a set part of the place plans, part of the project is to assess what are the opportunities for residential and industrial land. And as you said, they are very, very restricted because it is a floodplain around those towns and villages. We all know what happened to those towns in the flood. And so that certainly presents some big challenges. As far as the Darks Lane development, yep, the rezoning of that's been on the agenda, but at the end of the day that comes down to our role is to facilitate that. The proponent needs to get the work done to satisfy the requirements of the state government, so the decision can be made. I'm not sure whether Director Jones has any further updates on Darks Lane. I know there's been some discussions in the last few months. Do you have anything to add?
There has been discussions recently, within the last 2 weeks, with the Department of Planning on that Dark Lanes planning proposal. So it's getting closer. We're just massaging the final few sort of issues that have popped up, and that is to do with flooding also. So the proponent needs to retract a little bit and take some of the land for the lots to be created away from where the flood impact is. And so it's looking like it's probably really close to getting approval and the tick in the box. So it's been a hard work, but we've negotiated and I think we've got a really good outcome.
Just the other one from a project perspective, we do have the Evans Head sewage treatment plant stage 2, which is potentially somewhere in the range of $5 to $10 million. Well, it's finishing the job. It was done. That facility does at times hit its capacity, and so that project is in the detailed design phase at the moment. It'd be nice if that commenced, if not sometime during the next financial year, absolutely in the following one. So, that is a large project. A lot of work goes into getting sewer and water infrastructure approvals before you can then turn a sod. So, I think it's also important to remember that there were significant levels of investment in infrastructure and public infrastructure in those towns and villages over the last 5 years, in particular Evans Head. And at times we scratch our head a bit as to, what else do we do down there? We now have, as an example, the Stan Payne master plan. I think it's close to being finalised. Has it been adopted? I think it's... So once we have that, it gives us something to now position where there are grant funds to get on with further improvements around Stan Payne as an example. But Woodburn and Broadwater present significant challenges with what's been through there and where do you get your investment? We're improving the soccer fields. As you said, we've got funding for the tennis pony club. Certainly interested. It'd be nice to be able to activate some RV camping or some sort of caravan camping to boost tourism, particularly in Woodburn, and we've talked about that. But again, from a planning perspective, it's hard work. And also the land that we've sort of talked about, Crown land, native title. So, we're advocating. It's challenging, as I know you know that, but it does put you in as councillors, in a position where if you do run into someone in those communities, well, what are you doing for us? A lot of what we're doing is road work, getting our roads back in shape. We're chasing hard for funding to get that Broadwater bridge fixed. We've identified our share of funding. We are seeking the other 50% contribution from Lismore. We have an application in with Transport for New South Wales. I'd like to push the button and get that happening. But before you go to tender, which we are ready to go to tender, you have to have your funding secured. So, Broadwater Bridge, Evans Head, sewage treatment, I know they're core infrastructure, and people tend to focus on the more aesthetic and the amenity side of things. So we're up for ideas. I don't know whether anyone else had anything to add.
I'll just add that with the Resilient Lands program, that was put out to the general landowners if they wanted to nominate their land. So I don't know if anyone in Ridden's Lane nominated their land for that. You'd have to find that out. I've no idea. So that's up to them. And the development out at Fairy Hill, that proponent, they nominated that land. So that comes back to them. The other thing I think back over the last 5 odd years, and 6 years since I've been mayor, the improvements that's happened in those lower villages along the riverbanks and the parks and those types of things, I think we've done pretty well down there. There's a lot more to be done, but under government regulations now, on the floodplain, it's very hard to find a subdivision because the government will not allow that. We've seen 2 knocked back at Broadwater. Please correct me if I'm wrong. 2 knocked back at one at Riley's Hill and one at Broadwater because of access. And one of those subdivisions was actually on a hill out of flood reach, but because you had to go through floodwaters to reach it in a matter of emergency, the government opposed it. So it's very, very hard to have housing in the lower river now, and that's not council's doing, that's government's doing, because we have to abide by that. So I'd suggest to you, come along next Thursday, have a list full of things that you think could be achieved down there, and put them to the Reconstruction Authority.
So after listening to that, I probably should have left Evans Head out of the picture, because when we do these place plans, there's heaps of things that Evans Head can gain out of a place plan. You know, there's planning issues where they can get higher density living, they can go higher, they can make the lot sizes smaller. There's plenty of places for Evans Head to go. The sewage treatment plant will accommodate that, and I assume it'll also accommodate the iron gates if it ever gets the go-ahead. Now, I think Evans Head's fine, and I probably should have left Evans Head out of it. Come back to Woodburn, Broadwater, that subdivision at Dark Lane that we've just talked about, 41 blocks of land out there, ready to go, basically, just waiting for the state government to stamp them. The subdivision at Fairy Hill, we're going to be all over that soon. Prime agricultural land that's going to get developed, which is fine, that doesn't worry me. Out at the subdivision at Darks Lane, there's 20 acres of prime agricultural land, supposedly, that is nowhere near the land that is up there. But there's another 20 blocks there, but they won't, you know, so why can't this resilient lands mob look at that other 20 blocks of land there?
That's what I'm asking you. Did they nominate that land, the
Well,
owner?
Probably not, but I'm not sure on that. But,
Well, they're not going to look at it if they don't nominate it.
Well, you know, we should be out there looking for it. We should be hunting down every bit of land we can possibly, you know, get our hands on.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it would have met the criteria. I'd have to check this. Would have met the criteria because it's a rural residential development. I think the Resilient Lands program was focused more on, replacing housing in urban villages, whereas obviously the Darks Lane one is a residential development. We can check that and confirm that. But I think it's an important conversation for us to have with RA next Thursday and ongoing. That, you know, it's obviously the feedback you're getting from the community, and we know that, you know, there are concerns in the Woodburn community for its future. It's just the solutions are difficult to find. But our job is to try and find what they are and do our best.
In my conversations over the last week since the council papers come out, I noticed in there's 2 grants over $4.5 million each for cycleway between Woodburn and Evans Head and between Evans Head and Broadwater. I'm not game to tell them that they're there, because to be successful with that kind of a grant, is pretty unlikely. But that's all we've got. That's the only thing that's in the pipeline at the moment.
What else would you like to see in there then, Robert?
Oh, look, it's hard work.
I know it's hard.
You don't know.
And as the General Manager had said earlier, we push all very, very hard for the lower river at all these meetings, but they just adamant you cannot go and build more houses down there. So
I'll be asking the question that we've got houses in Woodburn. They won't lift up. They won't do a lift on a house that's already at the. It's above the one in 20 years, and I can't believe that they won't do that. And then we've got subdividable land down there. There's big blocks of land in Woodburn that are going to just die, because if they don't do that, they're not going to allow us to build even above the 1 in 100 year on those blocks. So people that have got big blocks that can be subdivided easily, I've been told that they'll be treated as a one-off application and assessed, as a one-off project. But you know, the chances of council staff approving, you know, a subdivision in Woodburn at the moment would be pretty slim, I'd reckon.
Well, it's not necessarily the council staff, it's that our staff have to follow the rules that are set, you know,
Yeah,
whether
but
it's the LEP or
Are there rules set to say you can't subdivide the land in Woodburn that's already there?
I would assume it's probably
I
guided by
haven't seen anything to that nature.
our LEP or DCP.
It's not actually defined specifically in the LEP or DCP, but going back to what you said, Mr Mayor, the one that we're talking about in, say, Broadwater, that had been zoned or put for residential development. There was an issue there with that it being flood impacted. The one at Riley's Hill was a planning proposal which was seeking to be rezoned for a residential purpose because that was isolated during flood. Then that was not supported by the government. So at this point in time, we've got parameters that we need to look at the risk when we subdivide, and we need to send them off to various government agencies for referrals. And what we are currently experiencing is that because of the lack of clarity, that the government is not conducive to supporting any further rezoning or subdivisions with flood-prone land that is high velocity and high depth, that would put people in a situation of risk. So we are experiencing that. There's no hard and fast rule, but if there was a block of land in the floodplain currently that someone wanted to build a house on and there was a dwelling opportunity that enabled them to do so, then you would have to meet the current planning requirements, and that is your habitable floor area to be above that 1 in 100 plus climate change plus freeboard. So there's nothing stopping people building at this point in time under our current planning legislation. It gets caught up when we're looking at subdividing or rezoning under a planning proposal.
Because there's houses being, as you know, being built at Broadwater now, so they can build. But I pushed very hard for people who were offered a buyback in the Lower River to be allowed, and they didn't want to leave the area, for the government to then put them to the next level down to raise their houses, and the government would not come at that. They said, no, we want the people off the floodplain and out of risk. So, and myself and other mayors said, look, we believe that if you don't want the top level, you should be able to ask below for the house raising. No way. So the government is focused on getting people off the floodplain.
Just to cap that off, the resilience, the work that you can get done on, is it resilience the word? The bottom tier.
Yeah.
If you haven't applied,
Retrofit.
retrofit. Sorry, if you haven't applied, you've got to now put in an appeal. There's an appeal process, which look, people don't want to do that. It'd be so hard. They'd make it so hard. You'd be wasting your time.
Did they apply for something else, and then now they want to?
No, it's just that if they didn't apply then for that, they can apply now, but you've got to apply through an appeal process. Yeah. So.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I understand that New South Wales RA and the Reconstruction Authority are moving through those appeals pretty quickly. They've got a large team that is dealing with them. I have heard some positive news stories with people that have gone through that path and got a different outcome than they originally had. So I would strongly suggest if there's any people that you speak to that are wondering whether to do it or not, I would suggest strongly that they need to throw their hat in the ring and speak to the Reconstruction Authority and get into that program, and also go through that appeals process, because they are looking at those appeals on an individual basis and on a merit-based assessment, and they are looking to see what the graded benefit is, and they're not, you know, there are rules around it, but they are looking at those grey areas and they're trying to assist where they can. So there has been some positive news stories with members of our community that have got better outcomes than they originally expected.
I've been involved in two, and these people have actually done the work on their homes, and they've gone back and appealed because they got knocked back. And because they've done the work, no, won't look at them. They've already used their savings, and and whatever to do what they had to do, and now they've got nowhere to go. Money's gone. So,
Any other speakers? Councillor Hayes was the seconder. All right, back to the report. I still think it's a very positive report, and I'm not going to let it finish on a negative. I believe there is a lot, when I look at the roads and the cycleways we're planning for down there, and I think it's the future of the Richmond Valley is outstanding, and that's the whole valley. With the rail trail, the equestrian centre, and those types of things, and the festivals we have, and like I was down there at Woodburn with the Festival of the Rivers or Waters. That was a great day, and the community came out. There was 1,500 people in the street down there, coming and going. The Korakai one, they had about 1,200 people. So I believe there's positivity in those areas, in those communities, and we need to keep supporting them as we have been. And once again, I'd encourage anyone next Thursday to come along, have your list with you and talk to those people, because as it's been said here, we have to comply with the government legislation. We don't make that legislation, but we're the ones that have to comply with it and enforce it. So that's why sometimes we get a bad rap, but it's not us. Yeah, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. 14.3. Councillor Hayes.
yeah, I'm happy to move the recommendation as written. I've just got a question for the General Manager, if he's
Can I
willing
get a
to take
seconder,
one on
please?
board.
Second.
Councillor Cornish. Councillor Hayes.
Question for the General Manager. Just to follow on from what's going on out there, I said, since the complex reopened in early February, 1st of February, under the new management by Outcross, I understand that the two main operational differences out as far as the vendors are concerned is there's been a 5% increase in fees that have been passed on to the vendors after the Agents Association negotiated their tenure details with Outcross. And the other change is once the hammer falls, the delivery side of the operation is handled by Outcross and not the agents. And this has been promoted as a standard industry procedure across other sale yards by a representative of Outcross. The previous licence agreements that were prepared by Council and negotiated with the same agents were left unsigned by them, all on by the 1st of July 2023. The previous licence agreements that were prepared by Council and negotiated with the same agents were left unsigned by them. I've doubled up there, sorry. The result of this was that Council's ongoing business plan for the NRLX was hijacked after substantial investment of over $20 million into the complex by Richmond Valley Council ratepayers to upgrade the facility. The outcome of this was that the complex would be closed for 6 months. Councillors and management are aware of the coverage of these two items in those unsigned licence agreements. Can you confirm now on public record how these two items were to be covered in the unsigned licence agreements?
So as far as the 2 points around fees, and the 5% increase in fees, that's been reported in media outlets, and that's all I've got to go on. Although I did have a stakeholder a newsletter forwarded to me, which had the vendor fees. I'm sure that's there's plenty of stakeholders in the industry that would have received that. So my understanding, and I think Outcross are on record as saying that those fees increased 5% on what Richmond Valley Council had adopted in its revenue policy for this current financial year. So yes, they're paying 5% more in vendor fees. As far as the delivery side, and obviously we've had nothing to do with any of this. We have very much let Outcross take on the operations of the facility as the lessee, and let them focus on getting the business back in action. But again, it has been reported, and it's been observed that Outcross staff do take control of the cattle once the hammer has fallen. And yes, that was the nature of the operational changes that were proposed by Council as part of the changes that we were implementing last year.
Thank you.
Any other speakers? I'll just make a brief comment. I typed something up last night. In 2016, Council convened a public meeting as at that time Council of the Day was investigating leasing the complex. However, community members preferred that Council continue to own and operate the complex and run it as a business. Council listened to their wishes and vigorously pursued government grant funding to upgrade the complex to a modern standard. This lobbying proved successful, which saw over $15 million from all forms of governments invested in a two-stage upgrade of the NRLX, making it one of the best livestock selling centres in Australia. Under Council's management, and along with the other stakeholders, the complex reached a ranking of number 2 for cattle throughput in New South Wales. Due to agents refusing to sign their licence agreement and boycotting the NRLX in 2023, a public meeting was held. It was disappointing, after all that had been achieved under Council's control, that a recommendation from that meeting was that Council withdraw from managing the complex. Once again, Council took the community's opinion on board and appointed an independent contractor to carry out the leasing proposal under the transparent and accountable procurement process. While all this was occurring, Council continued to lobby for the government funding to upgrade the all-important effluent ponds that were damaged in the 2022 flood event. It was pleasing to be notified in late 23 that the application was successful, which attracted over $5 million in grant funding. Since becoming Mayor in the late 2016, I, along with Councillors Morrissey, Humphries, Hayes, Cornish, and recently elected councillors McGillen and Deegan, have seen Council attract over $20 million, as I said earlier, to make the NRLX one of the best-selling centres in Australia. In last year's agents agreement, Council included clauses and proposals to lower the risk of animal welfare and OHS compliance issues by non-council staff that had been concerns at the NRLX, and to also improve the long-term financial sustainability of the facility to all ratepayers of Richmond Valley Council. I believe with leasing the complex, this has now been achieved. I wish Outcross Agri Services and all stakeholders using the complex all the best for the future. I also note on page 25 of the report, one sentence there, that transferring operations of the facility to private operators is in line with the management model for the majority of large sale yards across the country. And I noticed that recently that Moree are looking to go down that line too. So I think the outcome out there will be beneficial to all the users and also, just as importantly, to every Richmond Valley ratepayer across the whole valley. Any other speakers? Councillor Hayes, right, a reply.
Yeah, just to follow up. Look, I think Council as a whole would like to wish everybody out there the best and hopefully for the future, and that the NRLX becomes the leading facility in New South Wales sooner rather than later. And you know, it's a bit of a, I don't know, I suppose relief now. It's out of our hands, other than we just manage the lease and move on. So I think it's a good result, and everyone seems happy. So.
Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. 15.1, page 26. I'll move that motion on page 26. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Humphries. Mr General Manager, the reason I mainly called this was because I note in part 2 of that approves a budget transfer of 1.1 million. That's a bit of ratepayers' money. I just want you to give us a bit of a reasoning behind that, please. And I know it's to help try to get a $5 million grant.
Yeah, no, thanks. I think obviously when you make decisions like this, it's important, that it's justified, and we certainly believe that it is. Wouldn't be recommending it otherwise. It obviously flows on from the earlier commentary around the regional job precinct and growth, which is all in line with our community strategic plan and urban growth strategy and our economic development plans. So we need to do this, and obviously when the sewage treatment plant was damaged in the 22 floods, that brought forward the need to either refurbish or replace the facility. We've got to the point we think it's best value to replace. It's obviously started being built back in the 1920s. And for us to do that, as I also said earlier, water and sewer projects can notoriously take a long time through planning, approvals and design and detailed design. And we are taking an aggressive approach to this project. We've got support in for our team from consultants who have, or actually project managers that have delivered these sorts of projects. They know what they're doing. They know what needs to be achieved to meet an aggressive time frame. So that's been our approach. And then the opportunity of this funding has emerged where we can seek up to $5 million of funding to enable, so it's under the Australian Government's Regional Precincts and Partnerships program. This funding would help us get the project shovel ready by 2025, but to be ready to submit the application for this funding, we need some additional funds allocated in this budget. The funds are already in our sewer fund, so we have a separate sewer fund for future sewerage infrastructure, planning, design and construction. So we're seeking approval to shift those funds from that fund into our operating funds for this financial year so that we can continue the work that we're doing over the rest of this financial year and get ahead of the game so that we are as ready as we can be. We can get this application in and hopefully we get a successful announcement. The aim is for that to happen, I think it's around July, and that would enable us to continue with the planning process. So look, it's a critical project for the future of this community. Without sewer, your community doesn't function. You need sewer, you need water supply, roads and power are obviously your core critical infrastructure elements. So we need to get this job done. We're confident we have the team and the support around the team in place so that it can be delivered. So just noting on the budget implications, we do have a current balance of close to $12 million in that sewer fund. We will need every cent of that for future sewerage works and more. We've estimated some future loan borrowings in the vicinity of 20 million, and we're getting ourselves as ready as we can be to secure funding from future Australian and New South Wales government programs. So that's, I suppose, the justification. It's critical, and we certainly hope that you'll support the recommendation.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Humphries.
Yeah, thanks very much. I've read this and it's an incredible opportunity and it's a win-win. Hopefully we get the treatment plant so that we can take care of the housing development following the jobs precinct. And as it says in the report, the sewage treatment plant has reached its end of design life and it's suffering from use through old technology. So, it's causing real concern now. So I fully support this. I also, it's great, we're going with the Stream 1. We fit into those guidelines, as the General Manager was saying. The staff have done their homework on this and it's I believe that we're there with every chance. I feel like when I read the words now in Richmond Valley Council's reports, the two words regional and precincts, gee, they're a win-win for us, aren't they? They've been so good for Richmond Valley Council. But having said that, our council staff have worked hard and chased this down and had all our strategies in place, and hopefully this will be an excellent investment into our future. Thank you.
Councillor Hay.
On the Dole side, so we're going to risk a lot to, with the opportunity to get that 5 million in that first round of funding. What happens if you don't get that 5 million and we're at stalemate? What's going to happen? The planning's just going to stop?
It's a good question. Look, it's the funding's not at risk. We're not. It's not like having a punt that, $1 million to try and get 5, and if we don't get the 5, you lose the $1 million. The work that we will do as part of the $1 million is advancing our planning more quickly than we would otherwise be able to fund. So it's getting the resources and that we've got on our team, and it's actually getting them to advance our planning over the rest of this financial year, so that we are further advanced, both to capitalise on this funding, but also to move forward. So we'll have another decision to make around the time of the announcement of the outcome of this program. If we're unsuccessful, we'll have to revisit where we're at and how we fund the next phase. It might mean that we need to slow down, we might need to pause, or we may need to use more of our sewer fund to keep going with the planning of this project. And look, as we all know in our experience over the last half a dozen years, if you get a master plan, you get a business case, you highlight a clear need for something to happen, you will eventually find a fund where you're successful. We've got those projects all around us over the last half a dozen years. So it's, again, following that proven path and making sure that we are ready. At times, councils and government get criticised for things taking too long. And sewage treatment plants, we talked to an advisory body probably about 6 months ago, and he says it's not uncommon for these things to take 10 years. From when you start to say we need this to when you actually turn it on, it can take 10 years. Our aim is to do this in about 4 or 5. A big advantage we have is we're looking to use the same site, because often you need detailed planning approvals for a new site, EISs and other things that slow it down. So there's a few things on our side to quicken it up, but doing this is another reason why these funds will help us get ahead, and that's our aim, because we need that to then obviously be able to cope with residential growth, industrial expansion, but also the fact that it's limping along, it's doing the job. We're still meeting our environmental protection licence. But EPA are watching it, and clearly they're keen for us to get on with getting a new one, treat the effluent to a higher standard, better outcomes for the environment, our community and everyone.
So that leads to my next question. So we've got the old sewage plant sitting there, we're going to build a new one beside it, we're planning towards that. How long can this one go, right? If we need to, say we get our industrial land developed and we need to load the sewer up more, that'll get fed back into the old plant. Is it going to be capable, and for how long can it last in case we get stalled on the new one? And where will the money come from if we need to upgrade the old one for a short period of time?
Our team at this stage are comfortable that it will be able to continue to deal with what's coming in. We'll need to keep a close eye on it. If we get some new industrial growth and expansion, we'll need to keep that in mind. But again, that's why we're moving forward quickly on the new one, so that we can get that built and have it ready for the expansion that our plans have identified. So yeah, it's going to be a balancing act. To be honest, there are some things that we could do to the current one if we need to. In particular, one of the weaknesses around the inlet works and that there may be an opportunity if we needed to do some work there. But we're, I suppose, making decisions to minimise any expenditure in the current one because we want to just build a new one so that we don't waste ratepayers' money on, you know, fixing the existing. Let's put our energy into building the new one. So that's really our focus, but it doesn't mean we're not watching and monitoring the current one.
And just one more based around all that. The Fairy Hill subdivision, compared with the one in Lismore that they're proposing up behind the university, how do we stack up? That one's already got services close by. Do Lismore have to upgrade any services or anything to feed that subdivision, or is it ready to go? And what's the difference between them being ready to go and getting their approval so quick, and we're looking like, you know, years down the track before we get anywhere?
Lismore treatment plant went underwater, and they got over $100 million from the government to revamp and repair and upgrade their works. So they've had that fully funded already.
The other look at proximity-wise, it would have better access to water and sewer. I don't know the details of that deal. My understanding is that I think New South Wales government has or is going to acquire that land, so it'll become a New South Wales government project. And I think potentially Lancom might have been mentioned as the developer. So I don't know the finer details of that, but knowing where that is, my I suppose informed guess would be that their infrastructure contribution would be less than what we're looking at for the Fairy Hill development. Now we're talking in the range of 10 to 15 mil to get infrastructure from the edge of the casino, our existing network infrastructure, out to Fairy Hill. And when you do that, you've got to build pump stations, you've got to build water reservoirs, so there's a range of things. But we've had some work done because that work needs to be done to feed into applications and other work that we're doing. So that's, I suppose, what our target is for the Resilient Lands program, is that if we can get that infrastructure support through that program, it obviously makes that development more attractive for the developer in getting, having that connection.
The current treatment plant, I think it was built in the 30s or 40s, something like that. It's reached its use-by date, and the council of the day there, that was one of the first treatment plants in Seward towns. Casino was one of the first in country areas of regional New South Wales. So that's now 80-year-old at least, maybe 90. It's time. And to me now, I see this council being in the same situation they were that many years ago. It's the same as the pool. That was opened in 1952, 70-year-old. Was starting to fail with the treatment and of the water, and we had to spend money there. So instead of just propping up and repairing, it's time to build a new one. And same with the swimming pool. And if we leave it too long, there's going to be a future council that will be really under pressure. And you can remember that I recall at Evans Head, sewer works down there, they fiddle around, the council of the day, and there was calls for a moratorium on development in Evans Head because they said the sewer wouldn't be able to take it. So I don't want this community here to go to that extent where we have to say, sorry, we can't supply land that's not sewered. We need to get on with the job. And as the General Manager said, you need to have all this scope of works and everything prepared, so when the funding comes available, we can get straight on with the job. So I don't think we've got any other alternative. Any other speakers? Put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. I call the next one. I'll move it and get a seconder, please.
Second.
Councillor Cornish. councillors, this is a planning issue, so it needs to be called under legislation. It's good to see that things are happening in Broadwater, and the mill needs to do this to carry on with the excellent work they do down there in employment of our community. Any other speakers? Put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. I believe I'm on to 16.1, is that correct, Director Jones?
Yes,
Yep.
Mr Mayor.
Town entry signage, I'll move that. Seconder?
Second.
Who was that? Councillor Hayes, sorry. Councillors, as we all know, the previous signs started to, how will I put it, require maintenance a few years ago, and they were always, with the lighting them, it was a bit of a problem from day one. But then when the floods hit and really damaged them in the lower river, it was time to relook at the whole council area because a lot of them got really knocked around. I do note that we received $55,000 from round 4 of the Stronger Country Communities Fund to include recognition of the cultural heritage of the area. And these proposed signs do that. As councillors know, we had a look and changed a couple. They have now come back in our attachments. I'm happy with the design of them, and yeah, I think it'll be a big improvement on the previous ones. That's my opinion. So, any other councillors want to speak? Our General Manager would like to change the recommendation. I'll just see what they come up with.
Can we just adjust that to that council approves the design concepts developed by Wild Honey Creative for the town entry and boundary signage as detailed in this report?
Just General Manager, I was of the opinion after going through them the other night that there's one there undecided. There was a couple of options for one, is that right? Yeah. That's why I knew, that's why I said, oh yeah, that read like that, considers.
We took from the workshop, we took your feedback into account, and the idea was to try a different perspective with the water tower in it. I wandered the river, took the photo, which they've then replicated with the bridge tower. And I think they've reflected the commentary was, let's try and have the water tower in it. It's been an iconic feature. We've now got a mural on it.
It's in the attachment, Rob. Page 60,
so
64, 64 I think.
So we've updated that one. We made some adjustments to the Ratville one. We also adjusted the heights of the poles, and we fine-tuned the boundary signs based on your feedback.
Is it 64?
Yep. 64.
Yep. 64, Rob, the casino one.
Yeah, no, I say it, I thought that we had to ratify it, that was all, that's why,
Yeah,
that's why
yeah.
that recommendation was written like that.
Yeah. Yeah, be doing
That's why the recommendation was written that way. Was obviously we are, so there's the opportunity for you to.
Yeah, no, I reckon it's a
I think they've reflected the comments and the discussion quite well.
Yep.
Hopefully you do.
Councillor Hayes, I'm okay with the change of that recommendation. You right with it?
yeah, yep.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
I guess
Councillor Humphries.
just to say thank you to the staff and I guess Wild Honey Creative as well. We did look at these a number of times, and we did ask for a number of small adjustments, and I agree. I think that they look really good, the colour, the design, everything about them. So thank you for your patience.
I want to clarify the budget, just so that it's clear. At the info session in Evans Head in December, we had a figure of $25,000 for these signs. And now we've got $55,000 grant. We've spent $9,900 of it. And it goes on to say, funding options for the physical construction of the new signs in addition to the grant have been identified in existing budgets. So does that mean the budget is...
I think the 25,000 they were talking about per sign at one stage. It wasn't the whole job. 'Cause
I'm not sure what the 25 was, but
it wasn't.
we've got, so the 55 is that funding program. It will cost more than that. I don't want to put a number on it because we're going to test the market on it, so you don't want to forecast your budget, but I'm very confident it will come in significantly cheaper than the sign package that was done back in 2015.
And there'll be a lot less maintenance-wise because the other ones, the plastic kept flipping off and the lights and everything like that. So,
What was the result on the flood insurance for the signs that were flooded? That mean no, does it?
I'm not sure, but I think that might be one of the funding sources because they were damaged assets in the floods. As you're aware, we got a $5 million payout from our insurance company, significantly more than any other council in the region got. So yeah, it's one of the other, you've reminded me, it's the other funding source. So obviously with these sorts of things, and you know, we've seen commentary over the last couple of days about, you know, why is council not spending all their money on potholes and the like. Look, at the end of the day, civic pride and the benefits of that are shown in this community over the last decade, that you lift that and it lifts everything. Signage is important. Badging entries to towns is important. So we think it's a very good investment, but it's not coming out of our road programs and other things that sometimes gets mentioned.
I think all the signs in the lower river, they all would have had a metre of water over them. You know, like around Corrical and Broadwater and Woodburn, they were gone.
There was more positive comments on those Facebook posts than there was negative. There was a lot of good, positive comments about those signs, so, yeah.
That's good. I only get my commentary second hand. I don't spend my time on it.
Any other speakers? No councillors want to say anything about the signs? Good. Okay, I'll put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. 16.2 on page 38, Councillor Hayes.
Yeah, just move the recommendation as written. I've got a question if I can get a seconder.
Second.
Councillor Humphries. Councillor Hayes.
The land that we've got to acquire to run the stormwater through, particularly the piece that comes off Park Street and runs down to the existing drain, I assume there's going to be pipe work under the ground there? It won't be open drain, it'll be pipe work? Yep.
I'll let Director Zeller answer that one.
And while you're going, when you get to the drain, is the drain going to be left open, or is it the drain that runs from there to the river, or is it going to be covered?
That'll be open at that end. And as you suggested, it will be under the ground, the pipe work, yeah.
Okay, so if it's under the ground and we're getting an easement across that bit of land, it's basically good for nothing, is it, at a later date?
Correct.
So
Only it gives us legal access to maintain it, replace it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So would it be in the community's interest to chase that bit of land for car parking? You'd probably get half a dozen or maybe 8 car parks in there.
Potentially.
Yeah, I think that should be looked into. I don't know if it's part of this process or...
Let's acquire it first.
Yeah.
Although we can check with our team to make sure there's no restrictions on that acquisition, or if there are restrictions on it. It's a good idea. I obviously know that car parking's at a premium at certain times of the year down there, so good thought. We'll feed that through to the team, but obviously we're keen. We need to make sure that this process kicks along because the aim is to commence this project in, I think it's, when's it actually? March. So it's March, yeah. We want to get it done through winter so that we minimise any impact on obviously your peak warmer sort of school holiday periods.
Any other letter reply? Put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. 17.1, I believe we have a presentation, Mr General Manager.
We do. So Hayley Martin's with us this evening. Hayley's going to step us through a presentation of our quarterly budget review statement. So over to you, Hayley.
Thank you. So this is a quarterly budget review statement for the quarter ended 31 December 2023. Income from continuing operations has increased by $3 million from the revised budget, with the total income now projected to be $109 million. This is largely due to an increase in grant funding. Expenses from continuing operations have increased by $697,000 to a projected cost of $76 million. Council's projected operating result from continuing operations for 23-24 is proposed to increase by $2.3 million to a surplus of $33 million. The net operating cost before capital grants and contributions has decreased slightly from a deficit of $1.9 million to a deficit of $1.986. Council's capital work program has been reviewed, resulting in a projected program for 23-24 of $70.7 million. Decreasing by $956,000. Projected asset sales have also reduced by $3.1 million, with sales now expected to occur in 24-25. The three main changes for operating income and expenditure. Council received Rural Firefighting Fund allocations for 23-24 of $224,000 towards station repairs and upgrades, of which $210,000 relates to an increase in operating income and expenditure. In sewage services, an increase in operating expenditure of $100,000 towards planning of the casino sewer treatment plant project. And under strategic planning, an increase of $174,000 in income and expenditure budgets in line with grant funding received from the New South Wales Reconstruction Authority to deliver place and adaptation plans for mid-Richmond communities. For our capital works program, a review of the capital works program has been undertaken, resulting in a net decrease of $956,000 to a projected total of $70.7 million. Council's projected capital works program predominantly consists of reconstruction projects on Council's road network, as recovery works continue to be a significant focal point of the Northern Rivers. Some of these major projects include the Norton's Gap landslip reconstruction, a new culvert system at Dairy Flat on MR145, along with the Northern Rivers Rail Trail and Showground upgrades, which are nearing completion. With 39% of the capital budget being expended at 31 December, the capital works program will be continually monitored for the remainder of the year, and any impacts adjusted in further monthly or quarterly reports. The main changes to the capital program for this quarter, Council successfully received grant funding of $333,000 from the Department of Industry, Science, Energy and Resources for upgrades at the Ratville Sports Ground under the Black Summer Bushfire Recovery Grants Program. A net reallocation of $1.5 million in disaster and betterment funding for Norton's Gap Road reconstruction works to 24-25 to align with the proposed schedule of works. Council was also successful in receiving funding of $2.7 million under the Regional Emergency Road Repair Fund for road reconstruction works on various regional and local roads. A reallocation in stormwater management of $1.4 million to 24-25 in line with the revised project plan for Illawong Lane drainage. In real estate, we had a transfer of $3.1 million in industrial land sales into next year, in line with the anticipated contract timeframes for settlement. And in swimming pools, Council was successful in receiving $218,000 for the betterment of the Casino Memorial Swimming Pool Clubhouse, of which 120,000 is expected to be spent in 23-24. The major changes during this quarterly review are largely due to the announcement of grant and disaster recovery funding, resulting in a comprehensive review of the capital program. The projected total now of which is 70.8 million. This will be continually monitored for the remainder of the year as further impacts of contractor availability, supply chain issues and unfavourable weather. In summary, Council's projected financial position at year end remains on track with the projected budget.
Thank you. Has any councillors got any questions? I'll move the motion. And I'll get a seconder, please.
Second.
Councillor Cornish. One question is on page 48, and it's about a $333,200 from the Department of Industry, Science, Energy and Resources for the upgrade of the Rapville Sports Ground. What type of work will be done at the sports ground? Has anyone?
Yep. So that was a grant. We were approached by the Rapville Sports Ground Committee, and under the terms of the grant, a council had to apply for that. So we've sort of done that on their behalf. So that grant is to upgrade the transformer, add 3-phase power, 4 new light poles and LED lights for that sports ground. And I just found out today that our asset staff are actually helping deliver that as well. So that's what that one is. So they approached us, we put the grant in for them, were successful, and
That's good.
the work's underway. Yeah.
Good outcome for the community.
Yep.
The other one is the question is, and it's mentioned in the attachment, on page 50, proposed transfer of 3,172,500 in land sales from the industrial land development real estate budget to the 24-25 budget in line with the revised contract timeframes. Why? That's another 6 months into the new budget. What's the hold up with the sales? There's interest in them?
Why don't you just give us a bit of an update on sort of where they're at, without obviously giving away confidentiality?
Yeah.
And then I may
it's,
add something to it at the end.
I'm just asking why it's been transferred. It's a fair amount of money. Would have been expected sales if it's going to be transferred over.
Yep.
And I know we can't say who they are or anything like that, but I know there's interest out there.
Yeah. So we've got one away for sure. So a DA's been lodged, and I think we've talked about that publicly before. The other ones we've been negotiating with several proponents. You'll recall as part of that sales and marketing, what the council wanted out of that was probably some businesses that weren't, let's say, so that we can get storage sheds or stuff like that. We wanted to be employment generating. So the other thing we also put in those contracts was a caveat to start work within 12 months. Whilst that's been, the outcome of that's been noble to try and get there, that's been a bit of a burden for a few of the proponents in the way that the building industry's gone. They haven't been able to source designs or builders or stuff like that to construct. A lot of them are, big, great sheds. So that's been a difficulty. We've still got them on the hook. There's still negotiations happening, but it's just
interrupt for a minute. That 12 months you mentioned, are we going to help them, say, 2 years, or blow that out a bit?
That's definitely a conversation that the councillors should be across at some point, is about whether we push that out to be more...
because we all know that the timeline's in building now. It's just too hard to get... Yeah.
Yep, agreed.
Sorry.
That was about it.
Thank you.
Oh, look, I think, that a good summary. I think we need to consider, so at the moment, you know, we've got 4 sort of different stages of negotiation. We've still got 6 that are available, so I think we're at a time where we need to consider what is our best marketing approach. We need to get something everyone knows, we need to get one away. We need to get someone building something out there so people can see what that area looks like. Once you get some activity, others will follow. And so we're contemplating what that is. You know, do we continue to try and sell it? Do we get a commercial real estate agent in to help us that deals with this sort of stuff on a daily basis? So they're the conversations that we'll be having over the next week, because I certainly noticed when this amount of money was pushed forward, we need to get that over the line for a whole range of reasons, not only from a financial perspective, but just let's get some activity. That'll be our focus, and we'll give you an update at our next workshop on what that approach is going to be.
I note that things have got harder in building, but across the whole retail sector, and interest rates are going up. There's unsurety out there. You see a lot of. I was watching a financial show the other night. There's a lot of businesses going under. A couple of big businesses in Australia. So it's pretty tough times, and I don't think there's a lot of confidence out there just at present. So any way we can promote it and try to take a bit of pressure off the people that want to buy there, I think we need to be looking at that down them lines, because it will turn. They're talking about interest rates starting to go down mid-year, and when that happens, I think we need to be ready to get on with it. And I support that, carrying it over, but let's hope that it won't be in the 6 months of early next financial year we start seeing some money flowing. Any other councillors? On the quarterly budget review statement? I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. Item 18, general business. There's no general business. Page 61, item 19, matters for information. Could I get a mover, please, for matters of information?
Move that way.
Councillor Humphries and a seconder. Councillor Cornish. Councillor Humphries.
No, thank you.
Councillor Cornish.
No.
Any other items? Can you put your light on, please, councillor?
Sorry. 19.2 development application. So on page 65, I think I'm going to, from memory. Find it now, sorry. Page 68 and page 67. On the bottom there, it says number of building compliance inspections undertaken in December 23, and the other one's in January 24, and it says new program being used to be announced. What is that new program? And it's been in there for a couple of months now.
The General Manager.
I'll let Director Jones answer that one. I think it's to be advised what the figure is. Do we know a status?
Through you, Mr Mayor, don't know the status, but we are working with the planning portal and our corporate systems to be able to better track when we do these inspections. So at the moment, there's no way, like at this point in time, we get a development application in, and we know that it's there, so we can put a number on it. But when we go out and do inspections, we might do several inspections on a property. There's no way of physically tracking in our system in an easy and efficient manner. So we actually sort of almost take notes and then add them up at the end of the month. So we're trying to get it automated in our current corporate systems.
Thank you.
Matters for information. Any other councillor? No? I'll put that recommendation then. All those in favour? Carried. Questions on notice? There's no on page 89. There's no questions on notice. Do we have any questions for writing at the next meeting? No questions? Councillors, there's no closed council agenda tonight, so I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance, and for those viewing online, thank you for taking the time to watch, and I wish everyone a safe trip home. Close the meeting. Thank you.